Thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy afternoons. We have a full house already. We've turned the air up a little bit because it's getting warm in here. And we know that that's because of all the energy, the passion, the excitement, and the commitment from all of you who are here to help us be ready to protect our young people. I'm not going to talk too much today. My role is really as a little bit of a moderator and a little bit of the glue, right? To weave through what we're going to do in the next hour or so. And then, first of all, I'll tell you who I am. Some of you know me. My name is Vicki Casanova Willis. I have the privilege of wearing a few hats here today. One is as a very proud VISTA volunteer, almost wrapping up my year of service with First Defense Legal Aid. And that role is really communications and outreach, supporting both teams, both the Know Your Rights team, that I'm smiling as I'm looking around the room. You're gonna meet a very special group of Know Your Rights peer educators, community leaders, called the Street Law Corps. So you responded to our request to please come and hear some very esteemed panelists that you're going to hear from in a moment. It's also a press briefing. We have Chicago Defender, we have CAN TV. Thank you so much for always being willing to tell the full story that you don't always see in quote-unquote mainstream media, right? Then separately, we're going to be able to launch. You're helping us launch our next public service print campaign. How many people are familiar with the First Defense Silence is Power work? Yeah? Hands up and think, okay, you're gonna get to hear a little bit of that today. So without further ado, I just wanted to say again, welcome, thank you. We are going to do a little bit of panel discussing. They will take some Q&A. First, we're gonna share with you just a handful of really quick slides and a couple of surprises maybe in there. We also are very, very honored to be here. I said I wear a couple of hats. Another is as, I have a national role as the president of the National Conference of Black Lawyers. Exciting because I'm the first non-lawyer president that they ever elected to that role. So it's been a wonderful year, and a big part of that has just been the knowledge of and the heightened awareness of all of us who really care about justice and creating change, that those divisions and those labels and the things that in the past may have kept us from knowing that we can and must work together, some of those are just, dissolving right before our very eyes. But you know that that's because of a lot of really hard work. It doesn't happen by accident. So thank you for continuing to reach across all kinds of quote-unquote differences to affect the change that really must happen if we are going to protect, especially our young people. So I am privileged to be in the house here, which I call my office during the day because of First Defense Legal Aid, having space at the Westside Justice Center. So we're going to give a quick shout out to Brendan Schiller of Schiller Prayer Law for helping provide this anchor and this really special place, and to you all for making it truly fulfill its role as a justice center. So really quickly, you responded in part to some of this information here that we have about being ready to protect them. We'll do a quick shout out as we move through the next few hours before you get to eat and do some mingling. One of the things that you see, that very first logo on the left, Free Right, there's an incredible art installation, an exhibit that is actually launching the Movement Gallery here. Beautiful space that you're going to get a chance to just look through, interact with, ask questions about. Today is the launch, so it'll be here. The second one, logo, I just want to share this. These are acknowledgments and thank yous. We can't do the work without a lot of collaboration. So that African American Legacy logo on the left, does anybody know anything about that? Google Chicago Community Trust and see what you can learn. When a volunteer organization, this is how First Defense Legal Aid works, volunteers on both sides of the work, the attorneys that respond at 2 a.m., Ben and several others here, Nick and Jacqueline and Simone's team, volunteers, right? The people who are educating out in the community, again, who you're gonna hear from the Street Law Corps in a minute. But long story short, we don't have the funds to produce really top quality, and I would say world-class, but definitely award-winning marketing communications, like the Silence is Power work, and we've had the Purple Group, and some generous funding from people like the Chicago Community Trust and African American Legacy work to help partner with us. I'm talking too long, so I'll just say shout out to Hope Cafe and Kuumba Links. And then over on the right side, you see AmeriCorps Vista and First Defense Legal Aid. I hear people getting ready, yeah. And then tell me about this logo. Christina wasn't planning on speaking just yet. Can you tell a little bit about this logo on the top right?
So it's the Chicago Child Care Collective. So they're back there watching the children. Another one's on their way.
To the mic, sorry.
It's the Chicago Child Care Collective. So they're a group of folks that come to social justice events like this, and they come for free and volunteer their time to take care of babies and the children so that their parents are able to come, and we're all able to listen without screaming and running around in the middle, as much as we love those children.
And we do love them. Brendan, I know you have to head out the door soon to a very, very serious meeting. I heard something about Cubs. Yeah. So before you go, if you would say a quick welcome with regard to the space and this collective work that we do. I really am just, well, you're going to get to talk in a minute, but I'm just so honored to be a part of this kind of collective.
Thank you. Welcome to the Westside Justice Center. We have four for-profit law firms that operate out here. It's one of the locations for First Defense, and we have a non-for-profit, fledgling non-for-profit that basically leverages the for-profit law firms to provide holistic legal services to people who need them on a pro bono basis. It's kind of modeled somewhat after the public defenders in New York City. And it's very exciting because a part of what they're doing is also advocacy in terms of trying to remove some of the civil disabilities and collateral consequences of those with criminal convictions. And they're also trying to get to the point where they can do some job training to make some ex-offenders paralegals and investigators. So it's very exciting. The space is meant to be a collaborative space amongst lawyers who believe in justice and amongst other people who believe in justice. And it's also meant to be a community space for people to come from the community to engage and change. So thank you and welcome.
Absolutely. Westside Justice Center and Schiller Prayer Law Office. So if you would just share real quickly a couple of the slides from this PowerPoint, we'll go on through, and then we're going to ask our panelists to come on up. Again, it's really a briefing. This is about sharing and exchanging knowledge. So you're going to meet these folks this evening, the inaugural Street Law Corps. For right now, y'all would just want to stand up and shout out and wave. I'm not going to even tell you any more about them yet. They're going to tell you themselves. But we want you to know that there are lots of folks doing this work and making a difference, and we want you to support them. Thank you.
Chicago is the false confession capital of the world. Less than 1% of people in Chicago police custody have lawyers to represent them. First Defense Legal Aid was created to address this problem. We operate a hotline of volunteer attorneys that will come to Chicago police stations to offer free legal aid. The Street Law Corps is bringing this information to the Inglewood neighborhood on Chicago's South Side. We are also recruiting youth to be involved in peer education clubs that will teach Know Your Rights workshops. We want everyone to know how to invoke their rights when in contact with the police.
I think the very, very next thing you're going to see is a beautiful image that just lets you know that we're going to go on into our panel. Right now, there's some statistics and awareness that you're going to hear about from Herschella Conyers and from Mr. McElrath Bay, right? And others about what the system is horrible for anyone, but for our children, for us to know that fewer than 2 in 1,000 in Chicago in the last year had access to counsel. 1,000 young people, and there were more than that arrested. There were 11,000 plus black teens alone. So for 2 in 1,000, or some numbers say 1 in 1,000, that's all that had access to counsel? The first 48 hours alone in police stations with only police and prosecutors, whose job it is to get a confession, right, is unconscionable. So we, again, prevailed on some folks. Do you mind waving from the back, Ariana? You'll recognize her when you see the latest communications print work. So if you all would come on up, we really appreciate it. Enough from me. We just wanted to be able to hear from some of the folks who have been directly impacted or work with folks who are really doing the heavy lifting. And I know some of you all were looking to also see Aislinn Soul. Send good, healthy info her way. I guess I can say this because it was on Facebook. So she's in the hospital with pneumonia right now, and she'll be out soon if she's not already, back in the fight with Black Lives Matter, continuing this justice work. So right now, I'm going to actually ask each of our panelists to introduce themselves to you. They're going to talk into the mic because we are taping, and just share with you kind of a little bit of their story and how they are working together and also urging us to continue to advocate for people to step up, step forward, move into whatever level of work you can to make sure that we are ready to protect our young people and others.
Yes. Thank you. It's the first time I ever talked to a double mic before. That's perfectly fine. I just want to, well, first of all, thank all of you. So thank you for having me and others here. I'm Xavier McElrath Bay. I work for the Campaign for the Fair Sentencing of Youth. Been doing this work for 2.5 years now. I think what's significant for me in regards to being here is a lot of what I have sort of forced myself to remember in terms of my past experiences with law enforcement. A lot of that memory is choppy, but with some things that are very dominant. Some of the dominant themes in my memory were, quite frankly, a lot of abuse, a lot of brutality. I remember as young as age 11 years old getting caught for going to Marquette Park, which was not too far from where I lived. Some friends and I, we went there and we chose to ride our raggedy bikes to Marquette Park to steal bikes from kids who had nicer bikes. And the plan was simply to grab the bike, slash our own tires, leave it there, and get away. It didn't quite happen that way. One kid fought, and be honest with you, we beat the kid up. We were, at that age, unfortunately, being driven for the needs that we had, being very driven by the poverty, the lack of having the sense of, not being able to attain these things. I think that we were just simply acting on impulse. We got caught. I remember I was riding down 63rd, trying to get back to my old neighborhood, and the police drove up on us. They grabbed me, and they threw me in the back car. They grabbed my friend who was just a little bit ahead of me. And I'll never forget how the officer started hitting me in my chest with a stick. And he was calling me a lot of racial, a lot of, to be quite frank, he was calling me a nigger and a spick, because he couldn't figure out what I was. And I remember hitting me over and over, saying, "Why did you come to my neighborhood? Take that shit back to your neighborhood. Don't bring that shit over here." And I will never forget how that made me feel in regards to my race, in regards to the fact that I always felt like I was separate from the larger society, from those who had. But more importantly, I felt unsafe. The immediate sense of danger that was there, not knowing what was next, and then being taken to the police station and being cuffed and cuffed to the wall, having that physical vulnerability, constantly flinching when they came close to me, constantly anticipating another blow. I shared that experience because that was just one of many experiences that I had encountered with law enforcement as a child. And we're talking about in the 80s. A lot of those experiences, I believe, in some ways reinforced a lot of negative things within me. The lack of respect for authority, the lack of trust, that break, that there was no good and bad. There was no sense of good and bad. Those who were intended to serve and protect were actually very harmful. And so for me as a child growing up in back of the yards in a very poor and disinvested community, that simply meant for me that the only ones who I can really trust and rely upon and believe in were my fellow gang members. And so it reinforced that sense of family and camaraderie amongst us, and that sense of division with me in a larger society, and a belief that I could become something better. And by the time I was 13 years old, I had a wealth of experiences in police stations that resulted in abuse. But I was also making a lot of horrible decisions. By the time I was 13 years old, I had 19 arrests and 7 convictions. By the time I was 13 years old, being interrogated and beaten at the homicide unit for facing a murder charge, I was already accustomed to getting beaten. It was something I had already anticipated and expected. And I would talk to myself and prepare myself mentally for that eventuality. It wasn't a question of whether or not I was going to get beaten by the police. The question was whether or not I was going to be a trick. And that was something that many of the gang members, we prepared ourselves for, to be able to overcome that challenge. That was the reason why oftentimes whenever we did things wrong among us, we would discipline each other. But the rationale was, if you could take a beating here, you could take a beating in the police station. But my question is this, and what I want to pose is, why should a child have to be preparing himself for a beating in the police station? And that's why I'm here.
Hi, my name's Rochella Conyers. I co-direct a criminal juvenile justice clinic at the University of Chicago, where I've been for the past 20-some years. Before that, I was an assistant public defender in Cook County. I represent children accused of serious crime. I am a big FDLA supporter, going back over 20 years when FDLA was a bright idea, but really, could it happen? So long life to FDLA. I am here as much because I have raised an African-American child to manhood. I have a grandson who is coming into manhood. And I know, I'm in the detention center, I'm in the county jail on a regular basis, and our children just need more than society wants to give them. But what I have learned from my work is that the little that we give our kids, they do so much with it. So that what I'm here for is to help create a world where I don't really care if a kid is guilty or not. I don't want them to be punished as we have decided to punish them, because we over-punish children. We punish children of color, boys and young men of color more harshly than any place else on earth with the possible, in any modern world, okay? So I'm here to try to help you guys figure out ways not to give your children up to the police.
How you guys doing? My name is Paul Williams. I'm an AmeriCorps Street Law Corps member with First Defense Legal Aid. And Jasmine is a close friend of mine, and I had some situations with court issues where I needed community service hours, and she allowed me that, and we did it right in this area here. And coming from where I come from, you don't see a lot of hopeful things. And I always, since a boy, I was the only boy, so I had to learn how to make decisions for myself. I had to not let another person be allowed to think for me, and I had to learn these things quickly, because my mom had to work 3 jobs for three children, and I understand what poverty does to individuals just like myself, man and female, between the lines of going to school and seeing your peers make a lot of money, and going home and you're seeing your mother struggle to see the decisions from a boy to a man and watching my niece and nephews have to go through the same things, it's not fair. It's not fair at all. And I think that the part of the reason that all of us are here is to learn. And I think that we all have to be equally treated. It's many places that I go and I don't like to go because I feel immediately tolerated and not respected or accepted. And as far as the police, you know I'm a good guy, but immediately to be stopped and seized for the color of my shoes, the color of my clothes, and the community that I'm in, I'm already prejudged. And no one wants to walk outside of their home and face the adversities of the gangs in their community and then the police in the community. It's totally unsafe. And today before I got here, I was in an environment where I didn't think I was going to make it here. From the community that I'm in, the gangs are into it, so an hour and a half of shooting and then 20 minutes of non-shooting to try to get to a train station to make it here, more shooting, semi-automatic weapons. And I take everything personal as far as what I see on the media and what I see in the streets, because in every child, man or female, boy or girl, I see a reflection of myself, I see a reflection of my sisters, I see a reflection of my friends. And it's dangerous, it's really dangerous. I'm still a little bit shaken up, but I believe that it's something that we can do, not one person, not 3 people, but collectively as a whole, to make a change in the community. And first thing is the community has to unify. If we can stop and not stop, if we can make police accountable for the actions that they take among us, because we all know that it's unfair and unjust, but that's why I'm here. I'm here to find a solution to make the police accountable, to protect our children and our future generations.
Thank you. So I will come back up to the mic in a second. I wanted to come back and see whether our Cook County Board President, Tony Crackwinkle, might be willing to come back and say a couple of words. Sure. Thank you so much. So we were just talking a little bit about how it is really collective work, and it builds on what Paul just shared. Could you talk a bit is self-determination?
GMA is collective work and responsibility for those of you all who look at kind of the African-centered way of and values of thinking. And so the collective work is very much embedded in folks who also have access to power and policy, hearing and moving forward on some of the things we're raising with regard to being ready to protect everyone, but most certainly our young people. So thank you for being here and taking time out on a Friday. We are having people speak into a double mic because we do have CAN TV here for documenting. Thank you.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very grateful to be here. As most of you know, one of our principal missions in the county is the public safety system. Actually, 87% of our budget is either public health or public safety. About 46% public health and about 41% public safety. So that's a big chunk of what we do and where our revenues go. Since I came into office in 2010, I've been focused on trying to make our healthcare system sustainable over the long term and reform our criminal justice system. So let me talk just a little bit about where we are with the criminal justice part of that effort. As you probably know, it's true in Cook County and it's true across the country. Our jails are at the intersection of racism and poverty. Half the population of Cook County is black and brown, about 25% Latino, about 25% African American. 86% of the people in our jail are black and brown, 86%. And in contrast to what most people who you ask on the street, who's in our jail, people convicted of crimes, but that's not true. 93% of the people in the jail are awaiting trial. They're pretrial detainees. They haven't been convicted of anything. They're accused but not convicted. Of the 93% who are awaiting trial, 70% are awaiting trial for nonviolent crimes. A lot of low-level drug offenses, prostitution and shoplifting, the things people do to get money for their drugs, not paying their child support, Not even, sometimes not even paying their traffic tickets. Our jails are poorhouses. If you're a wealthy person and you're accused of a serious crime, even if you have a bond of $1 million, you got to put down 10%, so your family comes up with $100,000 and you go free. But we've had people in our jail accused of stealing soap, 6 bars of soap, and they spend 21 days in jail while they await for their first hearing after bond court, because they can't pay their bond. We have worked hard over the last 6 years to try to make changes in criminal justice. When I first was elected, we began a performance management system. What is each department doing? How are they measuring their progress? So we brought all the criminal justice stakeholders, all the public safety stakeholders together, and we said, okay, what are we doing and how are we going to measure our progress? And everyone said, the chief judge, the state's attorney, the public defender, the clerk of the court, the sheriff, all 5 of them said, we've got too many people accused of nonviolent crimes who await the disposition of their cases in the jail. We need to do something about that. So that was March of 2011. By the summer of 2013, although all of them had committed to that, nothing had changed. We still had 10,000 people in the jail on a daily basis, average 10,000. So I went to the Supreme Court, I asked for their help. I said, look, all of the actors agreed that we had too many people accused but not convicted of nonviolent crimes in our jail. But it's the same situation after 2.5 years, even though they're all committed to trying to reduce that number. Still 10,000 people in the jail. And the Supreme Court brought all the actors together, along with myself, in November of 2013, and we've been working together ever since to reduce that jail population. It's now down below 7,500. So there's been a more than 25% reduction in the jail population since the fall of 2013, when the Supreme Court brought all the actors together. That is good news, but our goal is to bring the population down closer to 6,000. And we think that we can do that, and that's the goal that we've set for ourselves and we're working toward. So it's kind of a dual track process. One is to improve our own internal operations and try to make our criminal justice system more fair. The other is to go to Springfield and try to change the laws. We've had success in the juvenile justice arena. I want to thank Scott Cizik, who's in the back, who invited me here today. Scott is our intergovernmental affairs person down in Springfield, so he champions our legislation. And we've focused on juvenile justice. Actually, we have a bill pending that's on around adult issues, but we've had the most success on juvenile justice. The first thing we did was try to reduce the number of young people who got transferred to adult court. It's called automatic transfers, ATs, okay? We wanted to up the age at which you got transferred as an adult to adult court from 16 to 17. So you don't go into the adult jail now until you're 18. And we also wanted to reduce the number of crimes which would send you to the adult jail. And we were successful 2 years ago in passing that legislation, which took effect this January, and we've seen a 73% reduction. 73% reduction in the number of young people transferred to adult court, okay? 73%, that's pretty significant. We also were successful in legislation to try to keep from sending juveniles into the juvenile justice system, into juvenile, what do they call them? The juvenile, thank you. Name went out of my head. Juvie, thank you. Juvie for being drug addicts, basically, right? We send our kids into the juvenile justice system who have substance abuse issues. And some of them even end up in the state juvenile facilities with addiction issues. So we passed legislation to cut back on the number of juveniles that get sent into our criminal justice system and into our state juvenile prisons because of their substance abuse. So we've had success on the juvenile side. We've proposed some things on the adult side which are pending, and we hope that they will be passed. But we've had bipartisan support for these measures, and we're very grateful for that bipartisan support. So we're working internally to try to make our criminal justice system more fair and just, and we're working in Springfield to try to change the laws across the state. And I'm grateful to all of the advocates who have supported us in this effort. We can't do it by ourselves. We need partners, advocates out in the community who will support these initiatives as well. And so I'm grateful to all of you who are in this room who've worked hard to help us make this happen. So thank you.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. We invite people to come and listen and learn and share, and then we force them to come up to the mic and make a statement. Thank you again for all your work. We appreciate it. Really quickly, we will, as we said, we have an incredible art exhibition that is opening in the Movement Gallery right back behind you. We're going to have someone, after we hear a little bit more from our panelists, we're going to have someone come and just tell you a little bit more about that briefly, and then let you see and experience it for yourself. But as you know, and then you get to eat, yes. But as we hear, these are serious issues, right? This is a big, big problem, and it took a very long time to get into the mess that we are in. And I say we, it's not something that is just for my community, right? This is a problem, especially of U.S. society, not only, but especially. That you all know that your nation incarcerates more people than anybody else in the world, right? And that word incarceration, you know, we throw these beautiful words out there, but what that means is that we as a society are comfortable holding people, including, as we're hearing, many, many, many children in cages for, in some cases, all, but most of their lives. That is something that, if you are a human being, really, and can imagine living that way yourself, or just experiencing that, which most of us can't, and we just put it to the back of our mind and just keep it moving, we can't. So I know I'm preaching to the choir. You're here because you care deeply and you do what you can where you are. We need you to commit to finding ways to push or pull someone else or someone else into this work really, really, really quickly. Just in this space last Friday, a week ago, here at the Westside Justice Center, we were able to host the UN Working Group on Arbitrary Detention. Kind of quiet little visit, not too many people knew they were here in the United States. And they said they almost didn't get to come. There was a lot of pushback to the clearances to allow them to come. And the working group goes all around the world, that's their job. They did get to come. They got to speak with a few people, spend a little bit of time, and again, the Westside Justice Center was able to host them, but they were not aware of some of the things that the folks here, that the panelists are telling you happen as a matter of course. So we're sharing this knowledge. We want you to do something with it. Pay it forward, spread it, learn more about it. Please, please, we're going to give an appeal. It's not even for money. We're going to ask you find ways for any attorney, every attorney that you know, to give just 6 hours a month to be willing to maybe go to the police station. I'll answer the hotline. They don't have to answer the hotline. But we need them to just go so that nobody is interrogated and beaten and tortured. We know that happens in Chicago. They need an attorney present, and we provide them first defense legal aid 24/7 for free. So I'm going to hand you the mic back and ask you if you want to add anything else to what you stated originally, and then we're going to take just a handful of questions. If anybody in the audience has questions for any of these folks, you may want to respond to something that you heard from one of your fellow panelists or something else that's on your mind. Again, I know that the working group, the UN Working Group on Arbitrary Detention, said we don't hear from U.S. civil society much. So from a human rights perspective, just know that we've got other avenues as well, and we hope that you all will utilize those tools.
Yes, thank you. We talk about how children are treated across the world. I think about international conventions that were particularly designed to protect children. The CRC, the Convention on the Rights of the Child. We learned through these conventions that some things are very common. Some things should be afforded to all children. We know that all children deserve clean water, food, shelter, a quality education, should be free of hazardous working conditions, should be able to live, thrive, and be able to, become who they are in a safe, nurturing environment. And these are things that we know very basically as human beings, and how we should treat each other, and in particular children, with special recognition to their youthfulness, with special recognition to the fact that they are a vulnerable population. But yet here it is, we are the only country in the world that sentences children to life without the possibility of parole. I'm fortunate to work for a national organization, the Campaign for the Fair Sentencing of Youth, that actually spearheads an effort to end that practice. This past year, we were in South Dakota, we were able to abolish it. And we were also in Utah, we were able to abolish it. The Iowa Supreme Court abolished it without us stepping foot into their state. I was very happy about that. Vermont, Connecticut, and Nevada abolished it last year. Right now, we have 17 states across the nation who have decided enough is enough, who have decided that despite what the media and what not long ago debunked theories of adolescents and children in our society in regards to super predators, that we are going to stand up and recognize what is not only morally important and right, but what is also scientifically proven. The fact that children's brains are underdeveloped, the fact that children who are traumatized, who experience violence and witness violence, that their social, emotional, and even physical brain development is impeded by trauma, and it further debilitates their ability to make decisions, to weigh out consequences. So when we talk about kids who are going to the juvenile justice system or being transferred into the adult system, we're really talking about some of the most abused, neglected, and traumatized children in our society, who are for the most part acting out of those traumas, who are not monsters, but are really victims of many failed systems, adults, and environments that were very negative, non-nurturing, and toxic. I can relate to that, but I also can relate to the fact that a child's brain is plastic, and that plasticity enables a child to grow and to be able to, through the course of the lifespan, to be able to be healed, to be able to take advantage of programming, of therapy, of meaningful programs that will help guide them in a positive trajectory, instead of being pushed further along, instead of being re-abused, instead of being re-traumatized. We should focus our energies on how do we help mend the lives of our children so they don't have to come into contact with the law, so we don't have to have the conversation about legal defense. But that in reality, that those who do go into that police station, and we continue to recognize their youthfulness, continue to recognize that they are mentally not up to par with adults, that we should be able to provide services like first legal aid, to be able to meet them in those places of vulnerability, to recognize that they, at that very moment, from the moment you walk into that police station, I'm talking about a matter of seconds, that child can give up his rights unknowingly. And I'm gonna leave you with one last thought, and it's something that I will never forget. And it was simply this, that when I went into the police station as a child, when I heard those very words, "You are under arrest, and you have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you," the only thing that I heard is, "You are under arrest." That is all I heard. Everything else flew over my head. The moment that I heard that I was under arrest, my first thought was, this doesn't feel good. I don't want to be here. I don't belong here. I didn't do it. Or I wasn't the main one. Why are they blaming me? And why is this officer hitting me? Understand, a child's mindset going into that situation is based upon survival. The most extreme and emotionally driven survival you could think back upon when you were a child, being driven by the amygdala, not the formal operating system of your brain where you're able to weigh out the consequences. And if I say something now, it's going to hurt me in the long run. No, that child wants immediate relief. He wants out of that situation. And if it means, yeah, I was there, but I didn't pull the trigger, in his mind, he's not guilty. A child can be guilty and not even know he's guilty. And oftentimes they give up that right. Oftentimes they try to tell the truth, but then the pressure, the atmospheric pressure of having to live up to some expectation, to some story and narrative that will satisfy an officer and the state's attorney, oftentimes causes them to lie on themselves or even to diminish their own involvement. I've never heard from any of my peers that I was locked up with when they said, yeah, I told the complete truth. No statement, I'm willing to put my life on it, no statement that enters into court is completely true. Even if you were the gunman and you really felt remorseful, you are not going to tell a true statement. And that effort, with that process in and of itself, when posed with a child, when a child is faced with these life decisions in a matter of moments and seconds without an adult there to help guide them through that situation, it can pose for some very unfortunate outcomes, which is why I'm happy you all exist. I'm really excited to know. I wish I knew 1-800-LAW-REP4 when I was a kid. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
I think I'll spend my time, a very brief time, just focusing on some sort of nuts and bolts stuff, okay? And that is, seriously, if what we can do and what we should do every day is have FDLA, the number, all right? But don't do what I usually do, and that is I'll put the card in my purse. You need to make this a magnet, put it next to your phone. Because when you need to make the call, you will be least emotionally able to do so. So you need to make it easy on yourself. Put it next to your phone, leave it there, tell your friends and your neighbors, this is who you should call. I don't know if you know or not, but again, the criminal justice system has a different idea of who and what a child is. If your child is 17, you're not getting the call. They don't have to call you. So you should know that, and we should start changing the law on that. My position is if I feed you and you live in my house rent-free, you're my child. But that's not the law, okay? They will take your child out of your home at 17 and tell you, I don't have to tell you anything. So you need to start working on that. You need to have the numbers there. And you need to go with your child or your grandchild, your nephew, your niece, your friend's child to the police station. You will not be treated well, but at least you will be able to witness. You're not going to be able to intervene greatly, but at least you will be able to witness. Because so much of what happens behind closed doors. Let me say this, if you're going to the police station, I'm into nuts and bolts because I believe, again, everybody here is trying to do the right thing. Take a coat and an extra pair of socks. There is a reason that the average temperature at an interrogation is 45 degrees. It's because most of us can't stand being that cold. It starts with sensory deprivation that wears you down. It starts with isolation that wears you down. It starts with suggestibility that wears you down. These are the things. Do not give up your child's right because the police say she's a witness, okay? Our children are nothing until the police call them, the witness or the suspect, and the difference is not in our hands. If your child is a witness, you still, as they say, should lawyer up. If your child has something to say, they can say it in a courtroom, they can say it to their lawyer, but again, if 5 kids are outside and somebody gets shot, guess who's going to jail? 5 kids. 5 kids. And moms, it's what Xavier had said before, most of us don't even understand the law of accountability. You go to the police station crying, talking about my kid didn't shoot nobody. That is not the law in Illinois. If your kid was with somebody who shot somebody and knew that that idiot had a gun, not that he was going to shoot, just knew he had a gun, your kid has now got a case, and often a murder case, on just that little. And the police interrogation is about making the case. These are not nuanced interrogations. These are not probing questions about motive. These are, what does it take to charge somebody with murder? What does it take to charge somebody with theft? Once I get the facts that I need to make a charge to call a state's attorney, the rest of what you have to say, the rest of what our children have to say is like, save it. Tell your lawyer. And by that time, it is just too late. The story has been told, the die is cast. And again, our criminal justice system, we know that Chicago is the false capital of the world. That's not what you're gonna get once I have to take a kid into a courtroom and defend that statement, make people believe that that is a false statement or a coerced statement, because, and this is also important, even if there is some truth there, the point of coercion is what we should be trying to stop. Police should not be allowed to bully kids. So, they just shouldn't. So what we're trying to change at this level is police conduct. And I'm a firm believer that the community should come together and we must change all conduct. But our attack on violence has to start with the folks that we pay to protect us from violence. They cannot be violent with us and tell us they have to be, because that's the only way they can protect us. You know, you shooting me or the police shooting me, I'm shot. We got different problems, right? So just as a practical matter, call a lawyer, call a lawyer. The only thing you should say at a police station is, what's your name? My name's Herschella, I want a lawyer. That's it. No explanation, no, I got a solid alibi. You don't know you got a solid alibi yet, okay? No, no, no. I want a lawyer is all any child should say. Now, the good news is that there has been legislation passed. So now kids under, I believe it's 14, have to be, no, the kids under 16, all the 16-year-olds are back in juvenile court, except for there's still discretionary transfer. We still will allow state's attorneys and judges to decide that a 13-year-old, okay, can be tried as an adult, all right? I got shoes older than these kids, right? I got wrinkles older than these kids. But, so we need to work on no discretionary transfer. A 13-year-old should be treated as a 13-year-old no matter what the conduct is. We can correct it by the time that child becomes an adult in a juvenile setting. The child is not gonna get better tried as an adult. So you will have 13-year-olds looking at 60-year sentences. It means nothing to them. They will spend 2/3, 75% of their lives in cages, clueless about this. And that's really not a goal that we want. I feel like I'm talking too much. I'll be happy to take questions, but I'll turn it over to you.
It's so many places that I can start. I'm only 26 years old. I haven't been a man too long. And as a boy, I was the only boy. And my mom, I had 2 older sisters. So my mom had to give me the option. It wasn't an option. She made the choice for me. You're gonna be responsible. And by making me responsible, I had to learn what decision-making and choices were. And at an early age, I was able to travel home summertime, maybe like 1 a.m. And for a 12 to 13-year-old in the city of Chicago, in the poorest communities, you can only imagine the things happening at 1 a.m. I can say that a child can't fail the system when the system is already failing children. When you have a 13-year-old child going through the midst of hell is what I'm gonna call it, because that's what's on these streets. It's hell. It's the street gangs and it's also the police. This puts a child in a position to watch his back not only for the guys on the street corner, but for the boys in blue as well. Because when you're going through certain areas, any area in a poor community, and you see the police mistreat a small girl, an older woman, men, women, it's no respect. And I mean, it's not even a lack of respect, there's no respect. So what do you think that child is already assuming for his later years or her later years? This is eventually will be me. I can probably face these same adversities. Although we make the choices to go to school, we still face with that same adversity because no one knows the good that we're trying to put out into the community. So I think that it's already started from the system in the poor communities. I went to public schools, and the thing about FDLA, we offer the workshops to go into these schools in these poor communities and teach the kids how to invoke their rights when in police contact. And I can honestly say firsthand, in none of my classes, any semester of college, grammar school, high school, these things weren't taught to us. So this is when I realized at an older age that the system had already failed me. Because if they actually cared, then they would say, hey, we're gonna give you guys criminal justice classes. We want you guys to access your rights. We wanna know your Constitution, not give us 2 weeks to prepare for a test to tell you everything that's in the Constitution. Teach me how to learn legal jargon to protect myself as a 16-year-old boy or girl when the police are harassing, standing on a bus stop. 6 people can stand on a bus stop and all have on uniform with the same book bag and be my color or his color, and it's called gang affiliation, mob action. So we aren't even treated as high school kids. We're treated like the guys that's up the block pushing the dope. And we already come from nothing, so we don't have nothing. And when I walk around and I see these kids, they don't even have a sense of hope in their eyes. This is what's going on in the community. They have no power. They feel powerless. Parents feel powerless to send their children out because we're poor. So a parent has to get bus cards for her children to go travel to a school, however many miles it is from home, in the neighborhoods that these children have to pass by, ducking gunshots, stepping over syringes, police contact. And these, even if you have a suit on with this color, they don't care. Where were you coming from? Where are you going? We got a call. You fit the description. At 26, I've heard that so many times I felt like I always fit a description, no matter the shoe, no matter the area. And then when you ask them, well, officer, what's the reason for your stopping me? Oh, you want to be a smart ass. No, I'm on my way from somewhere. Well, we got a call about a guy with this jacket and you have that jacket. You got a call. How do I know that this is real? How do I know that you don't want to place me at a scene of a crime and say that I put the jacket on afterward or I took the jacket off of someone? You never know what the case could be. And parents are totally unaware of these things because they aren't there firsthand for the contact. So a parent is totally in the loop. We have to educate our children. We have to make this a routine for them at home. We have to be overly prepared to prepare our babies for the cold world that they have in front of them because honestly, we all see what's going on. We see it in the media. What do you think a 16-year-old kid is looking at when they see another 16-year-old kid unarmed, murdered in the street, 17 shots? Do you understand the trauma that children is going through? Those kids are going through with that type of trauma. This could be me. In an instance where I was just leaving and there were gunshots, I was sitting rubbing my mind because my head felt like a jug because in an instance, though those shots weren't for me, I could have got hit with 1 or 2. You see what I'm saying? This is what our children are going through. So it's not just, I got to worry about gym. I got to make sure I put my gym shorts in my bag, my shoes in my bag. Do I got my geometry book? It's, if I stand in the group and the police are harassing us and somebody acts in a ill-mannered way because they already have seen what they've done to someone who looks just like them, it's post-traumatic. It's fear. They're intimidated. So a 16-year-old kid doesn't know how to act in a calm manner. He's not of age. Like my brother said here, his mind isn't fully developed. And they look at it in a sense of abuse. They look at it in a sense of abuse. The police have all of this training, all of this psychological training, all of this range time, and they're equipped with all of these skills to get a child to make a false statement, to incarcerate them for something that they never did, place them at a scene of a crime where they never been. And of course, a mother who's working 2 jobs and she's getting paid under minimum wage, she doesn't have the money to pay for a lawyer. She doesn't have the money to put on a phone. She doesn't have the money to put on a book. So now this child is left unfed, caged like an animal, afraid for his life. And in any sense, when an officer says, after all of this traumatic stress that this child has endured while in police custody, just tell me this is where you were, you shot this person, or you created this crime, or you were involved, and you can go home. Just give me that answer. That's all you have to do. What do you think that child is going to say if he believes that he's going to go home? Because that's essentially all he wants, is to go home, because he is afraid. This is what we face every day. We've all been there. Some of us haven't. And then we have to be able to say, because everyone doesn't see these things, it's a condition. It's not a condition in every community. Because if I go to Wicker and I want to have a cold one, I'm still scrutinized. I'm still stopped. I'm still watched. It's 1 million people on the street. Some are white, few are black. And out of the 1 million of people that's on this street in Wicker Park, I am the one whose car is being followed and pulled over. Well, do you have any contrabands? Do you have any drugs? Why do I have to have all of these things? Why is it me? Out of 1 million vehicles, you saw me, a black face with several more black faces. And I hate to pull it, but that's actuality. That's the actual thing that's going on. And so with First Defense, I love what we do, because I'm able to go into these communities and relate. And the information that we have, we should be spreading it like bread and water. Everybody needs it. Everyone needs it. We don't have to wait until a child is 18. We need to get it done now. If a child can understand how to tie a shoe before 5, then a child can understand at 16 what it means to invoke their rights, not speak, to remain silent until they have been assessed with a lawyer. I'm pretty sure that we all can say we have to make a conscious effort to involve these things, not even your children, because they're all our children. It doesn't mean that you raise them. It's only what's right, and that's what I think that human rights are a part of. It's what's right. So this is what's right.
So Paul, hold this up if you would. Just hold this up. In just a few minutes, we're going to release you to enjoy this incredible art exhibition. He's holding up the first work that Laritza Lopez and the Purple Group did for us, with us, Silence is Power. And this really was part of exactly what you said, the public education campaign to help flip the script. You know, we know there's this code of silence within the police departments, right? But again, for our adults as well as the children, to be able to just be quiet in that setting, I can't imagine. So these are part of the materials which are so important for our street law corps and all of you to be able to put in people's hands. Is just really critical, in addition to the number to call. And then we're going to take a really quick look at what we are launching today. Again, because these marketing partners envisioned the next step. They went even further when we first worked with them a couple of years ago to say, okay, you got a primary target, which is, you know, helping people who are, when the police roll up, when they do, know what to do and what to say and when to stop. Silence is power. But then separately, most of the time the call is made by a third party, right? It might be a parent, it might be, we get calls when we're on the hotline from social workers, from teachers, from, you know, Max, some of our board members who work with young people, with BUILD and other community groups. So we were so privileged to be able to come back to them and move immediately once the statistics were revealed by the Chicago Defender, who looked at the Freedom of Information Act stats to see that literally 1 to 2 in 1,000 of Chicago teens had access to counsel. So that 998 that didn't, times 11, because there were 11,000, they went through those 48 hours, and sometimes longer. On the weekend, there's nobody to be able to hear them. So they got tortured, not just interrogated or beaten or bullied. They're tortured. And this is why we are fighting so hard. So be ready to protect them. That's what I just heard Paul say, is in addition to the Silence is Power, we are pushing very hard through this beautiful work that, again, a great deal of heart and volunteerism in terms of working with our actual family and street law communicators who were able to be the models, but you will see very high profile and high quality marketing communications to be able to educate people. It's all of our problem. So if you see something, say something. Know the number to call and make that call. It saves lives. So be ready to protect them in English and Spanish. Be ready to protect her and be ready to protect them. We are really excited to know that this will be running again on CTA, and we do things, kind of roll them out in a pool, and so some work will be revealing more as the weather gets warmer, probably the grilling one. But the others, we're going to start getting that word out right now. And Eliza is... she's just masterful. You all know she's really, really good at getting people to do things. So I just want to say thank you. And please, again, give a really a round of applause, if you would, to the Purple Group, because this came up very quickly. And they put us in position to be able to put this in the community and public transportation where it's very, very needed. We will, again, be looking for people to do jingles and to do some short films. We want to hear from Christina, if you would, about now that you have all this information, important information, and you know some of the people even to follow up with further to get more information. Could you give our panelists a round of applause? As we are enjoying food and beverages, we want you to remember the purpose, right? The real reason to be here is to really be ready to protect them, getting the number and the information out there, but having attorneys who are willing to continue to expand our volunteer ranks. And then Matilda, one of our board members, I'm going to ask you if you would to come up and just say a quick little bit after all about this art exhibition that you're about to see.
Everybody give it up for Vicki, y'all. She's fantastic. Yeah, no, she's fantastic. Full disclosure, I was an intern with FDLA in 1999, in the last century. And had it not been for FDLA, my life would never be the same. So I just really encourage folks to volunteer. It will forever shape you and shift the conditions within which we're working. My name is Matilda DeJoss. I'm a board member of First Defense Legal Aid. I'm the Associate Director of Free Right Arts and Literacy. I want to give a quick shout out to our Free Right family here, founder and Executive Director Ryan Kiesling over here in the cut, Marshawn Knight over here in the front, and Elgin Bokhari Smith over here. Roger Banneragard is fetching small children with the child care duties. We installed the mitigating evidence exhibit in the West Side Justice Center right here. We were invited by the family here, and we're really, really, really honored to share the work. The art that you see there is created by young folks who are currently or have been detained at the Juvenile Temporary Detention Center over on 1100 South Hamilton. Free Right has been in existence since Ryan founded it in the year 2000. As a tutoring and creative writing, visual art, audio engineering, justice literacy, publication and performance kind of effort, collaborative among artists, right? So we have art here that is all done by young folks themselves, and the books that are hanging down are intended for you all to contribute to the timeline that we in the city will shape and forever make that history. Do I have the privilege to invite a performer? I first met this young person, and then I was just so inspired by the continuing poetics and artistry and craft and performance. And so we're really, really, really lucky if he'd honor us with the piece he wants to perform, the poet Marshawn Knight.
Okay, so I just got released from the juvenile detention center, but got charged as an adult, and I'm still currently fighting my case right now. But it is kids up in there that really need like help and guidance. It's really kids up in there that need a lot of help and stuff like that, you know, because there's kids that's in there going through a lot, and I don't think a lot of people understand what type of things that the kids go through, you know. So I'll be doing the piece. Okay, it's like, I close my eyes to hide the pain. Since you been gone, stuff ain't the same. People said you should have changed. Tears flowing down my face, and I know that that's a shame. And they was all up in your face, but they forgot about your name. So I got a double couple feel straight to the brain. I can't forget about them times when you always had my back, helping me while struggling, and I'm just thanking you for that. Last time I seen your face, you said you gonna be right back, and I was waiting for some hours, but you never came back. So I'm just getting nervous, wishing that you should have stayed. Then I heard some gunshots on that ground my brother laid. All he wanted was some money, he was trying to get paid. He was trying to touch a mill, that boy was working like a slave. Open doors was waiting for him, wide open like a cave. He said you reap what you sow, and you sow what you reap. Spending nights up at his house, cause I ain't had nowhere to sleep. But he always told me, keep my head up, stay up on your feet, cause he don't want me in that grave, underground 6 feet deep. And these people there scheming, try to act so they can sneak. Any day that I was starving, he made sure I had to eat. And when he passed away, man, I watched him stop breathing. Mama running down the whole block and started screaming. Why this had to happen? Why my son he stopped bleeding? Listen to the story and the truth that I'm speaking. You only get one chance in this life, so start thinking. To these people, man, y'all don't really know. Let's talk about that time when I was sleeping on that floor. Book bag full of clothes, I ain't had nowhere to go. And you got the nerve to judge me, you just acting for the show. But my brick brother told me, Lil' Sean, stay on your toes, so I'm planning for the future. Get a book full of goals, bullets flying everywhere. Trying to take another soul. Broken home and lost souls is what a person really know. There was once a little boy who was always screaming mama. Raised on his own, his household full of drama. Didn't go outside cause niggas killing like Osama. When he matched his match, he froze up like a comma. Money, cars, and clothes, that's what really caught his eye. He'll do anything and everything to get by. And he know them people lurking and he thinking he might die. Put a letter in the mail trying to tell his mom goodbye, but he ain't even worried. Wishing that his brother's rad. And he got that thing on him in his tuck to his side. Then he seen his mama put the trigger, then he cried, blood splashed on his face. Now he looking traumatized. I've been doubted, I've been hated, I've been told I ain't gon' make it. I just want my sister back while she ain't here, it's complicated. Why she had to leave my side, nobody knew it wasn't stated. And my mother gave me up, so why the hell was I created? I've been doubted, I've been hated, I've been told I ain't gon' make it. I just want my sister back while she ain't here, it's complicated. Why she had to leave my side, nobody knew it wasn't stated. And my mother gave me up, so why the hell was I created? Sometimes I feel like I'm gon' fall at the bottom of the sea. Sometimes I feel like, why the hell is this stuff happening to me? I got faith. I believe up in a God that I can't see. Hard times, but I know that God is looking after me. Incarcerated, I ain't never have $1 to my name. Got a pencil in the past so I can write about this pain. When it hits you, it's gon' stick just like a hollow to your brain. Not about the stuff you lose, it's all about the stuff you gain. As a kid, I had to learn. When you learn, then you earn. But I knew that soul was hot, and I still get burnt. I was walking down the middle, then I took a left turn. Gave a lot of stuff away, but I don't wait for a return. A lot of stuff is going on, a lot of stuff is going wrong. Boy, I came from the slums, the raps was living in my home. Pick my hair out with a fork, cause I ain't even have a comb. Real struggles in my home, that's why I had to write this song. Thank you.
You kill it as usual. Eric. Well done. Well done. I just want to make a public service announcement. And this is for adults, okay? So, you know, the drug crimes are going to be minimized or whatever. There's a new crime out here, and it's directed at adults, and you need to spread the word and let people know. Because the U.S. Supreme Court says we all have a right to carry guns. We all went out and got guns, all right? And we all went out and got our firearm owner's identification card. The newest crime is not having a concealed carry permit. Now, here's what you need to know. You can't get a concealed carry permit without taking the course. There are no free concealed carry courses. So those of you that are putting your guns in your glove compartments or in your car, just trying to get to work and back home, be careful. It's a whole new class. It's a felony. And I am seeing 25, 30-year-old men and women showing up at 26th Street, no record, working jobs, now looking at felonies for the first time in their lives. Spread the word, go get your concealed carry permit, try to do some legislation in the city to demand free concealed carry or reasonable concealed carry programs available. It's a money crime, basically, because we figure, okay, I got the gun, I'm legit because I've got the firearm owner's identification card. You will get a felony if you do not have your concealed carry. And the odds of black people and brown people getting stopped, I don't even have to go there with you. So, help yourselves, protect yourselves, all right? Spread the word about concealed carry.
I want to thank you again. Incredible. Thank you for sharing, for the courage. Thank you all for being here. Again, we know that we are launching both the Be Ready to Protect Them initiative to ensure that we are raising the bar in terms of the awareness and the actively calling this hotline for the young people. In the meantime, the criminal punishment system is a monster. It is eating them alive. We can do better, and we must do better. As we go on and give you all a break and go ahead and partake of the food and see the rest of this exhibit that this poetry was a part of, you can see the caliber of the thought and the creativity and the passion and the brilliance and the work. And then you will see these fine young folks of the Inglewood Street Law Corps for First Defense Legal Aid who are literally in their great t-shirts, and I want one of those, and hoodies and blazers. Their bios will be scrolling over here, but take the time to find out a little bit about them, about their work, and how you can help if you would. We thank you, and just know that this is an open door, open ears. It's a collective, and we couldn't do any of this work without all of you. There's so much to do, but thank you so much. We'll do it together.